and had a lot of things in common. We just really enjoyed each other. So I was thinking, you know what, we just have her on here and you guys can learn from her as well. She has a coaching degree, and then she also is a lawyer, which is an interesting combination. I'm going to let her tell you about that here in a minute and how she's kind of combining what she's doing. So you guys just like listen in, be aware that these are always recorded. We put them on they're automatically available right after each. So if you have to log off, and you can always log back on and listen to the replay. It looks like Enid saying hello, and I'm going to kind of turn over the microphone to you, Jessica. I'm going to kind of allow you to do a more formal introduction of yourself, what you do, and how you help people. And in the meantime, I'm going to kind of log on to our Facebook and kind of look there for comments. So I'm going to mute myself for just a moment.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Cordero. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me here today. I am first and foremost a life coach. I help people with all the aspects of life, and I primarily focus on mindfulness, on acceptance, on basically all the things that are hard to accept, right? I do a lot of trauma processing, grief processing, all of that. And in the bariatric community, that can really touch on a lot of different aspects of life. I met Brenda at the conference because I was there to actually support my mother. She has been morbidly obese for the majority of her life. And she got the surgery 15 years ago. So I was about 15, 14, and like too young for like to fully understand her journey, but just old enough to walk with her hand in hand and to really learn from her. And as I became an adult and joined the later parts of her journey, we really have strengthened that relationship. And so I'm just really excited to meet you here all today and to share some little pieces of myself and of wisdom and love and acceptance and all of the good vibes.
I'm going to take myself off mute to make sure. I'm posting the Facebook link because somebody's asking if we're also live on where we're at on Facebook. So it's on ProCare Health channel. And so you can always join us there. We do these events anytime we're streaming live. We're also streaming to Facebook, except on our support groups. We keep those really private. So yeah, I put the link in the chat box here on our Crowdcast channel. So if you're listening on Facebook, just know that we also have a channel on Crowdcast. I'll post that link here in a little bit. So Jessica, tell me, like, first of all, what made you decide to, first of all, you got your law degree. What made you decide to do that? And then what made you decide and interest you in getting involved with coaching?
Yeah. So I think lawyers, first and foremost, are drawn to it because of the problem-solving aspect of it, right? I am first generation immigrant here. My mom and grandma immigrated from Nicaragua in '81. And there was always these like social oddities and socioeconomical oddities. And I felt like I was a buffer for a lot of that and always a problem solver. And even though I am a highly anxious human being, I like talking. That's just something that I enjoy. And I do think that ignorance was a little bit blissful in that regard. I didn't understand how hard it would be. And so a lot of times when you have a goal, I love the simplification of sort of the innocent way, right? Like there was a meme that said, this kid wanted to be an astronaut, and they said, oh, well, you got to go to school and you got to go to training, got to do your residency, and then you're on the moon. And the kid was like, well, that's just 4 things. I can do that. And so with that sort of childlike viewpoint, I was like, well, I got to go to school, got to make good grades. I can do that now, being focused on the present. And when I found myself in law school, I was like, oh shit, this is hard. This is actually, no wonder people do this. But it was my summit. This was my goal, right? Like I had this, it was a part of my identity. I thought this was something that I needed to do. And so I made it work. And throughout this entire time, I didn't believe in therapy and I didn't believe in talking about your feelings. You just strong arms through life because I had always thought that if I started talking about all the things that had happened to me in life, I lost a child, I suffered sexual assault, I was in abusive relationships, and they take pieces of you over time. And I thought if I were to open up this can of worms, I'm going to collapse. And life needs me to be stronger and harder. And so I kept petrifying over time. And in spaces where I needed the grace to bend, I broke. And so, in preparation for the bar exam, I started having really bad test anxiety. And I'm talking like I felt like I was going to pass out or I was going to throw up. And it was graphic and gross and not what you want to feel before some performative aspect, right? Like before I have to think through this very hard exam. So in my second year, oh, okay. In my second year, I was like, well, let me try this thing called therapy. People talk about it, and I guess maybe talking about my feelings will help, right? And I go to a counseling session, and the counselor was like, baby girl, you got a lot of capital T trauma in your life. And I was like, I hear you, but I'm not in a space to process it right now. I need you to give me the skills to combat this test anxiety, this performance anxiety that I'm having. She was like, okay, on the caveat that you do visit this space one day. And I said, okay, fine. So she helped me build a relationship with my body and how I was feeling. Because beforehand, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your anxieties, your fears, they're all kind of mixed together. And you don't know what it is that's really at the root of your problems. You don't know who to talk to. Imagine being in a room and everyone's talking at the same time. You don't know what to do with that, right? So with her counseling was like, let's give names and placeholders for all of these things and reminds like your adrenal system that you're not in danger, right? Because that's what your body is perceiving. And I was like, okay, great. This is revolutionary. This like mind mojo you're working on me. And so the first piece and the biggest piece that I preach is acceptance. I'm not going to not be an anxious person. That's not going anywhere. And I'm not a piece of shit for being an anxious person. I'm just an anxious person. So I need to accept that first, right? Then everything else can build on top of that. So that was my first mark into this world and into the love and grace that's in that space. And I thought, okay, I'm just gonna finish this one goal, right? I'm gonna finish law school. So I actually had a panic attack on the bar, but I passed because I knew how to do that. I knew how to first accept and recognize what was happening and then fill in the coping mechanism. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to start my life. This is the day that my life begins. I have climbed, I've reached my summit. I got the dream job. I worked at an international law firm with a 6-figure salary. I had the apartment in downtown. And Brenda, I should have been happy, but I wasn't. And that mounting unhappiness didn't go away. It just built. And it started making me bitter and resentful. And that petrification started again. And I didn't want to go back to that. I didn't want to just bear down and grit. And so I thought, okay, I'd read The Body Keeps the Score, which like problematic but fantastic book. And I started my journey into therapy and EMDR and trauma therapy and trauma processing. And the more that I started going into this journey, the more vocal I became with everyone around me, random people at the bus stop, like random people at Starbucks. And I've always had this ability to sort of reach in to people and say that it's okay. Whatever it is you're feeling, it's okay. But let's just talk about it, right? And I didn't know that I had that because of all of the anxiety and shame and fear and not recognizing that you can like yourself. You can say good things about yourself and not be any kind of, that not being a bad, right? So as I stepped forth with that truth, with that honesty, with that integrity, like our conversation, we were waiting in line and just immediately hit it off. I started recognizing this is the life that I wanted. These are the problems and the complexities and the emotions that I want to deal with every day, not sitting in my ivory tower looking on top of everyone and being so far removed from everyone. And so that's how I transitioned from the legal sphere into a different set of problems, which are people's inner problems, right? Into the life coaching space.
Oh, that's so interesting. And it kind of like hit me too whenever you were talking about this, because sometimes, sometimes I think that we go through life, we do these check-ins. Let's say we do a check-in right now. Like, let me ask everybody how you're feeling, like, right now. And I think sometimes we think, you know, okay, we may say, "Oh, I'm fine, everything's okay." But, like, we don't always realize all those little things maybe that are maybe still kind of like part of our energy, I'm going to call it, like part of our daily routine, those little reminders of maybe a past trauma or something else that's kind of active within us, and we're not realizing it, how they affect our, like, how we see the world and everyday to day things. Now, what, like, we may say that everything's okay, and it may be to a point where we're able to do our everyday activities and things like that. But, like, how would it be if we were to not have so much reaction to that every day? Like, our reactions to some of the things that happen, somebody even just saying hi to us, and we take it as maybe, like, what were they thinking? Like, we start getting our head about different things because of our past, because of the past things that's happened to us. And I don't know that, like, going through life, how, I don't know that life will ever be exactly everything that we planned in our day-to-day things, but maybe it is in some ways. Like, maybe some of these things that happen to us brings up awareness that we need to, like, you're taking this bar and everything. Maybe that was just like bringing it to a point where you could, like, look at everything and you could say, okay, I need to address these things. Like, it's affecting my everyday activities. You know what I mean? So,
Exactly. It's
like,
mhm.
day-to-day activities can just be, they help us, like, make little realizations, I guess, of where we are.
And I do think there's a difference between survival mode and thrival mode, right? Like in survival mode, a lot of people think you're going through life half-assed, but you're not. Surviving could mean succeeding, right? Because all of these
Mhm.
these coping mechanisms and how you move through life, like it makes you an excellent employee and it makes you a really good, a performer, right? Because you're in survival mode. You're giving people what they want, but inside you're empty. And so how I liken this to the bariatric community is that for a lot of people, it's focusing on that number on the scale. I'll be happy when I'm 160 pounds. I'll be happy if I can even get in the 200s or low 200s, right? And then you're there and you're not happy. You find more reasons to be unhappy. I can't go up the stairs, can't go down the stairs. My body hurts. I don't like the way my body looks. I don't like who I am. And that builds over and over. So when I had hit my milestone, I just want to be a lawyer, I just want this good job, right? I'll be happy then. And then you're there and you're like, what the hell? Why am I not happy? I thought I did everything I was supposed to do. I ate the things, I showed up to my stupid trainer, and I'm this weight now, but I don't even feel like I'm in my own skin. And that's how me and my mom started talking about our mutual body dysmorphia, right? So for her, she had those incremental spaces and she would look at it big. I'll be happy when I lose 100 pounds. So she lost the loving herself through the pieces of, like, when she lost 5 pounds, when she lost 20, like those small victories. It's just not that, like, it's just not a number on the scale. It's, I don't have as much pain in my knees anymore. I wake up and I can go 10 minutes without feeling all of the aches and pains in my body. That small win, and really reveling in that. So that way your day isn't, you're not constantly looking up so much, but like your neck is starting to hurt, right? You're able to start celebrating and liking, just liking you, liking the journey. And for a long time, I didn't know how my lawyer brain and my super emotional life coaching brain coexisted, because one is very cold, just logical, factual, and the other is very warm and intuitive. And I started resenting that I spent all this time and all this effort and resources in law school instead of, like, in psychology, for example, right? And going the therapist route, or like Dr. Phil kind of situation, right? And I realized that no, exactly what you're talking about. It was all of these, it was this journey, it was this road. And talking crap to myself wasn't going to change the past, but it
Mhm.
certainly changed how I was feeling in the moment. So when I accepted that now I understand and analyze things differently that I would not have done but for going to law school, that's a strength. For my mom, she had, she lost the weight, but she did no internal work beforehand. It was all external in terms of like she was watching what she was eating and she was following through with the plan, but she wasn't doing any of that emotional work component to go with it, right? The same way I was going to school and studying and I got to that space, but I wasn't doing any of that emotional work. That what does it mean to take on someone's stress and fix their problems, right? So we kind of met each other sort of on different mountains, but in the same level of like, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to work so hard towards another goal only to achieve that goal and feel empty and feel hollow. And so this time, Brenda, the time that the version of my mom that you met this time is more whole because she has spent time just liking herself and liking the journey, listening and redefining her relationship with food. Because food, it's a coping mechanism. It makes you feel good. It tastes good. And your body is like, hell yeah, I'm going to give you all the happy hormones to do all of this. So, how do you turn something that feels good and redefine it into something that feels good longer, right? No one likes to eat a salad. Like, it's not very fulfilling, but you like how you feel afterwards. You like that you don't feel groggy or whatever it is, right? Or you found a new recipe for a vinaigrette that like is super stoking for you. I mean, whatever. I learned how to make at-home potato chips, like like from like potato to chip, and that was a really cool revolutionary thing. Anyways, my point is that she hated the overall process less when she broke it up into different components and started healing from the inside first as she was healing this external outside piece, as she was losing the pounds, as her body changed. Like no one really talks about how much your body changes, from your internal sort of, if you're used to pooping in the morning first thing and then that goes away and now you're grumpy kind of situation. So from like little inconveniences like that to, oh my God, I now fit a size 14 when I've been a size 20 my entire life. Like, what does this mean? And that secondary piece is how the external world starts to treat you. That first time, I remember my mom holding resentment that, well, now people are treating me nicely, but people suck. They've treated me like shit my whole life, kind of raw emotion.
Mhm.
And through that love and understanding and perspective shifting and just putting better people in your life that authentically love you no matter what, right? When she started losing the weight again and seeing people treating her nice, she could just accept it. It wasn't this like conspiracy with the world, heavy, sticky emotion. So I think that the biggest piece with sort of exercising the different levels of self-awareness and how you use it and bringing it onto that journey with you is asking yourself, why are your goals your goals? What do you hope to be?
Mhm.
Who is her or who is he? And when you look at the best version of yourself, and are you only concentrating on external things like the number on the scale, or are you also concentrating on internal things? The happiness you feel when you wake up, maybe not happiness, but contentment, right? The contentment you feel finding the routine that works for you and holistically joining those two, the internal and the external.
I love that. So let me ask you, what would you suggest, like if somebody is, like let's say waking up today or being in their day, like all of us are, what would you suggest are some things that maybe could kind of bring that awareness to a different levels, like depending on where a person is, whether they're pre-surgery, post-surgery, wherever they are, what would you suggest might be some things that might help that? Because I kind of think it's so easy to, like, as you're losing weight, like you said, you focus on a number, you get up on the wake up, you stand on the scale, and this has been me before, stand on the scale, and then I look at the scale, I'm like, if you're up a few pounds, your mood just drops. Or if you're down a few pounds, you're like, yay, like you're letting that affect your happiness level. Like really and truly, you're allowing something that's not really you to affect how you feel about the day. And so, I mean, what would you suggest?
So, a couple of things. The first thing is the why, because the motivating point for people considering surgery, pre surgery, they've taken the steps, right? And then post surgery, and then like raw post surgery, and then healed post surgery. These are all very different benchmarks for people, and your motivations change, right? The starting point could be for someone like a relationship, or you've had a child and you want to be more active to participate with your child, right? Whatever that motivating base is, to check in with yourself. What is your why today, right? What is your why? When you understand that, and then you say you get on the scale and you see the up points, and you're like, starting to feel angry or sad at yourself, and you ask yourself, why do I feel this way, right? Did you, and I've seen my mom struggle with this a lot too, and I struggle on different points, but you'll sort of give yourself permission to exist, and then you'll do some things. And then when you see that negatively impacts you, you're like, why did I do that? So the holidays is for that a lot, right? It's like, I've eaten like a bunny this whole year. I'm going to have a freaking piece of turkey, and I'm going to have some stuffing or a pie, whatever it is, right? And then you gain 2 pounds, and you start initially with that, like, bam. When you start with your why do I feel this way? I've gained pounds. Then you get to talk to it. Well, I've gained pounds, and this is a natural fluctuation because I've given myself permission to do this, because I have done really great. I've lost 50 pounds. So these 2-3 pounds is not a slippery slope. It is not a big wake up call to do whatever it is I need to do with my life. This is the natural consequence to something that I've accepted. This is how it's making me feel. I'm going to bring my anger level 10 to now a 2 or 3, and use this in whatever way, right? If you need compassion, give yourself compassion. If you need understanding, the same. If you need to use it to get back and eat that protein shake you're not in love with, then do it that way, right? But like, starting from a point of understanding is a lot stronger for long-term success, and a tool that's sort of a chameleon. You can use it in any regard, right? You can use it when, say, you're more bloated. Our bodies are bodies. They do weird things, even if we do everything right. So if we wake up and we're a little bloated, you might have eaten something that made you a little bit more gassy. It doesn't mean that you're going to wake up and suddenly gain back that 50 in one day, right? But that's how your body feels. That's how your mind feels. And it's like, oh shit, 2 is going to turn into 10, it's going to turn into 50, it's going to turn into 100. But the thing is, what you're not recognizing in that moment is the value of you. You made those changes. You brought it down to that number. You're in control of that. And we see a lot of this too in individuals who gain the weight back. And they're like, well, I'm a weak person. I couldn't do it. And that apathy and that guilt and that shame starts seeping in, when really you're not a weak person because you've done it before. But life is a complicated thing. So many things happen that's beyond our control. And you said in the beginning, you get really reactive, right? And sometimes you go from a thriving pace into a survival space. And that's okay too. Like, you can backslide because you now know you have the strength to do it again. And so with all of that, whenever you're at a particular benchmark in your life, stopping and pausing and just checking in with yourself internally, right? Imagine, if you're a visual person, imagine you're talking to like a younger you that doesn't know all the things that you know now, right? If you are not a visual person, then you're just talking out loud to yourself, right? Why do I feel this way today? How can I feel better? What do I need to see in order to give me that? But the biggest thing I want to say to everyone here is, the second you catch yourself saying, I should have done this, da da da, just like a sort of chastising voice, I want you to ask yourself, would I say this to someone else? And if you wouldn't say that to someone else, you need to walk that back with yourself. I'm sorry, self. I'm not valuing how far you've come and what you've accomplished. And all of like, then you need to show yourself that compassion. It's so easy to be so mean to yourself, especially when, 15 years ago when my mom did this surgery, she was vocal. And my family love them to death, but toxic and dysfunctional. And they thought, well, you're taking the easy way out. And I remember talking to my mom about how is this the easy way? You are literally changing your body from the inside. It's invasive, it's hard. Anesthesia is hard on your body. You got to go through all of these steps. You have to talk about all these intimate, tiny little pieces of yourself to these clinical people in white coats that are looking at you any kind of different way. There is no part of this process that's the easy way out. None. And so when I started, she had to help me with this. When I started saying, well, I guess I'm going to do this life coaching thing, and I'm leaving behind what lawyering is like, and I guess I'm taking the easy way out. She was like, what easy way? It's so easy to like talk shit to self, and then to catch it and be like, no, you wouldn't say this to someone else. So why are you saying it to yourself? Why do you think it's okay to talk to you like that? And you have to be both the moderator in that moment, the feeler, and the healer. That's a lot in one space. And so also to have compassion that that's not going to be automatic. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm going to be a better person. Now I'm here. Like it's a practice. That's what we do. Like my mom couldn't touch her toes for years. I couldn't touch my toes for years. I didn't care about body health and all this other stuff. And so we were like, okay, we should be able to touch our toes, right? That should be, I want to do this, right? We shouldn't, it's not a should, it's I want this. I want this for me, right? I couldn't touch my toes just because I decided that that was something I was going to do, nor could she, right? You have to accept where you are in the touching toes goal, right? And then you work at it. So something you get to your knees, then your shins, and maybe your ankles. Then maybe you do touch, sorry, I have something in my throat. Maybe you do touch the top of your toes and then finally the floor. That's what this practice is like. It's some days you're sore and you can't get as far as you did the other day, and that's okay. Knowing and accepting that and not overly chastising yourself for whatever that, ooh, okay, it's finally gone. I don't know what that was. I think are all very important. So that was kind of a ramble, but I hope there was some helpful tips in there. Are you back?
I'm back. Yeah. I don't know. I have a touch screen and I touched something and I just disappeared. I was like, oh. No, I mean, you had so many good points in that. And Tamia says, so glad Jessica said and explained that feeling when you're going through the feelings. And she also agreed with what you were saying there. I think sometimes it's just, so whenever I went going back to kind of like what was mentioned about the non-reaction, like when we experience those really strong reactions in our day-to-day life, to me, that's a sign that it's something for us to really look at. Like if you have a really strong reaction to something, it means something to you. To me, it's maybe it's part of your life purpose, it's something that really means something deeply to you. So the stronger the reaction, the stronger that it means something to you. And so when you do some of the self-exploration, like Jessica's talking about, to me, if you can't just say, I'm not going to be reactive to everything, because that's part of human life, part of human existence. But if you can examine why, like if you are super reactive to something, look at it, ask yourself some questions, and automatically, I think that starts the process of bringing down that emotion to a more level, stable place. Because if you ignore it, it's kind of like just pushing it down and pushing it down. Just kind of like you said, whenever you were in, like when you were wanting to take your law exam, and at the point that's all you really cared about, you weren't ready to explore everything else at that point, but you push it down and it's still there. But something happens during your everyday activity and you re-experience it. But once you're able to like look at that, whatever it is, look at whatever you're experiencing and maybe understand it a little better and maybe bring that reaction down in the moment, you may not ever even get re-triggered by that same thing because you brought understanding into it. You've leveled out that emotion. And then when something happens again, it may not be that you are triggered, or you may not be triggered as highly as you was before because you're exploring it, you're leveling out the emotion, and you're like automatically, you're actually healing yourself, not only in the moment, I believe, but you're actually healing that from a past perspective and from a future's perspective. Because if you think about those emotions as they're coming up, they're actually kind of from, I'm going to say the past, even though they're happening now. So you're like gaining some, you're gaining some momentum from the past. You're like actually healing some of that, but also you're keeping it from re-triggering you and happening again and again and again in the future. So like if you're struggling, like let's say the scale, and you're getting on the scale and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to be happy if I'm X amount of weight, and today I'm not that weight. And you have this fear that creeps up. What is that fear? Is it a fear of failure? Maybe you had some failures in the past that maybe are affecting you now, and you think, I can't fail. Like, I just can't. Like, maybe there's, and then asking yourself, why is that? Like, we all go through different experiences in order to grow and learn. What would you say to that, Jessica?
The like learning cycle.
Yeah, like just basically finding a way, like when you do experience something that does kind of like, whoa, like you feel really strong about it, like to bring that more to a level playing point. Would you say that, I mean, you can do that in the moment, and like going forward, it kind of helps build the momentum so you're not kind of experiencing that in that loop over and over and over.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So I'd say there's like an onion, there's a lot of layers to it, right? So when you're being very reactive to something and you do the introspection, like you said, and then you get to the fear of failure piece, right? Imagine that you're like at drinks talking to a friend, but you're talking to yourself, right? Or through dinner. So that fear of failure is indicating at a most basic, like a lower level of a lack of trust of self. If you think you're going to fail because you'll relapse, or because you won't see it, like Tamla said, you want to see it through, there's a fear that you don't trust yourself to see it through. And so when you talk to that and you're like, how can I build this trust? Are you not recognizing as much effort you're putting into your own journey? Do you need to pump yourself up a little bit more? Do you need to, for anytime we experience failure, it's easy to say like, oh, I'm a piece of trash and I didn't deserve that, or I deserve not getting that thing. It's almost easy to write it off and get into this negative space. And for the weight loss community, it's because you put yourself there first and taking that like too much responsibility for that, right? Because we feed ourselves, we feed our bodies. And so the little like demon in the back, and this isn't for everyone, this may just be for some people. The little demon is like, I put myself here and I can put myself here again. And I'm trying all of these things, but if I did it once, won't I do it again? And that's not recognizing that you're already taking the steps to make sure that that doesn't happen again. That's a space where like I, as a friend, would just hug the crap out of you and be like, but you're doing it. You're in it. You've already started. Even if you're thinking about this journey, even if you're talking to people, you're making steps to change your today. That's the difference between today and yesterday. And that's that first little bead, that first little kernel of trust. You, not anybody else, you showed up to your doctor's appointments. You talked to your friends and families. You're redesigning your life. You are changing your goals. That's all you. That's nobody else. And in those spaces, creating that little trust goes towards deactivating that reactiveness that happens. But all this wisdom aside, emotions are huge. And sometimes they're bigger than our brains. So even though we know all this is happening, sometimes you just need to cry. Sometimes you'll get on the scale and you'll just wallow. I'm not an anti-wallower. Wallowing is fine. You need to release that emotional response, whatever it is. It's picking yourself up. It's saying, okay, I've now got to this point where wallowing is turning into a pity party. I don't want it to be a pity party. I believe in myself. I am worth more than this. So I can do it, right? Whatever that is. And so first, just giving yourself the grace. My emotions are really big right now, and I'm not hearing myself. It's okay. I'm going to cry. I need to go get a hug. I need to go get, a hot cocoa with one of my friends and just bitch it out. Whatever it is to you that's just going to immediately respond to that. It's kind of like imagine your emotion when they're really big is a toddler having a huge tantrum. No matter what you say to that toddler's not hearing it, right? What do they do here? They hear compassion. They hear love, right? Hugging or giving space, whatever it is that you need in that moment of high reactivity is fine. But it's important to build that trust and honor that experience by doing that introspection when you have the mic again, when the toddler is chill and now you're like, okay, we are not mean to ourselves, right? No, we're not. And just taking it little baby step by little baby step. And over time, you'll get on that scale, not be where you want to be, and be like, that sucks. I'm not where I am right now. I had a piece of pie yesterday. I'm obviously feeling it right now, or I haven't taken a dump in 5 days, and this is really frustrating me. And then recognizing I'm probably bloated because I have 5 days worth of crap in my body, right? Because one of the biggest issues with a lot of these different surgeries is absorption, is fibers, protein, is your body. You've changed the way it works, and understanding that and forgiving yourself, forgiving your body. Oh, I understand why I'm not taking a crap because my body's having some difficulties. Okay, so it's not that I am the problem. It's that I need to go get something, right? A laxative, or there's all forums on how to help you crap. Like, it's out there. The information is there, but you can't access it if you're too busy beating yourself up.
100%. And I think sometimes it's so easy to focus on, like, let's say a certain amount of weight loss, or a certain amount of a number, or a certain amount of something. Okay. You're focusing on the goal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but the problem is we can't always control that. We can't always, like, tomorrow you may not have lost 20 pounds, but the things we can control, you can control your emotions. You can control your behaviors. You can control, like, the activities that you do. Like, you can walk, you can decide your next steps. You can choose to think a different thought. Like, you can't in the moment, like whenever you start beating yourself up, you can choose to say, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to refocus, and I'm going to allow myself a little space until the next step comes to me, because it may not be right there under your eyes right in the moment, especially if you're in that negative swirling. But so in other words, you can't always control what your day is going to look like. We know that because, your day, sometimes all these weird, strange things pop up, and your day may feel out of control. Your weight may feel out of control at some points, but you can control the little steps you take to get to where you think you want to be. You can control that. Is that what you're kind of leading up to?
That's exactly right. You control, you are the driver. We are in our own individual meat sacks. That's what this is. That is what this is. But who we are in here, we control this, both inside and out, right? So recognizing, for a lot of you, right, you've been in the passenger seat of your own life, letting relationships or external forces, expectations, obligations, duty, your own perception of who you should be drive, as opposed to you. And a lot of these people on this journey particularly have taken the step to get in the driver's seat, but you're still acting like a passenger, right? The world is happening to you, as opposed to you are living in the world. You have made the conscious decision to live here. None of us has to be here, right? We're all the product of two people getting down one day, which is fabulous because now we're here, right?
Uh-huh.
You, everyone here in this room at some point in life makes a conscious decision to live and move through with purpose and intention and whatever that is, right? That's what I help a lot of people do because it happened to me. I did the thing that everybody expected of me, that I expected of me, and I wasn't happy. And this happens to a lot of people when they get that dream job, when they get married, when they have kids, when they have the surgery, when they have their dream body, and they're not full. They're not content, or they're struggling to keep trying to look forward that they're not living. I mean, that's why a lot of people wake up in their 50s and 60s. They're like, what the hell did I live for? What was my life? Why did I spend? There's this episode on Schitt's Creek. And if none of you have watched it, highly recommend if you like dry humor, or, just if you empathize with the crappy character, because they all are problematic, but they're so funny. And there's this woman, she's in her 60s, and she's talking to a woman in her 20s. And the woman in her 20s, beautiful, not super conventionally beautiful, like tomboyish kind of thing. And they're talking about nudes. And Moira, the older character, she was trying to find a nude that someone took of her in like the 70s and couldn't find it. She was upset that her nude was not on the internet. And she looked at Phoebe, the younger woman, and she was like, one day you're going to look at yourself with much kinder eyes and wish you have taken a naked picture every single day of your life, And for a lot of us, whatever stage you are in your body, right, just accepting that you are worthy of love and that it's because you love yourself, not because you hate yourself, because you love yourself, you are doing this really hard thing and loving every aspect of the really hard thing. Love that you woke up. Love that you actually ate a vitamin today. I'm a horrible vitamin taker. And now, I recognize when I don't take vitamins and how my body creaks more, like I hurt more. I still don't like taking them, but I like how I feel after, right? So it helps justify it. And if I don't take it one day, I'm not chastising myself. Well, I'm a piece of shit. I'm not taking this damn vitamin. It's like, no, I missed today. That's okay. I'm going to take it now. That's on my brain. And I'm going to do better tomorrow, right? That negative, swirly self-talk has no function. It's not productive in any way. And all emotions, they're not negative and positive. They're productive in one way. Our emotions are there to tell us something about ourselves. When we feel jealousy, it's because there's a need that's not getting met. And we perceive that someone else's need is getting met. And that jealousy can lead to resentment if you're not there talking to yourself of like, well, what do I need, right? Do I feel lonely? Do I feel lonely in this experience? Well, let me tell you, there's a whole community of beautiful people within the bariatric community that have been there, that have done that can help. I mean, this community is insanely supportive, and it helps with that. But you have to recognize that. If you're off in the corner and you're like, well, screw all those people, they know how to have friends, that's not productive. Instead of saying, I would like some friends, every single friend I have is because I'm awkward. I don't like social events. So I'll hang out by the food stand or by the drink stand and be like, this is a weird experience, to whoever's just talking next to me. And they're like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, do you want to talk? Can we chat? They're like, yeah, great. And then it's wonderful, being authentic. But you're exactly right, Tamla, that sometimes we are our own worst enemy. And that's okay. Back to the acceptance piece. It doesn't mean anything bigger than the meanings we give it. Sometimes we are our own worst enemies. So how do we be nicer to ourselves? How do we get out of our own way? How do we break these cycles, given all of the tools of who we are as a human? Because we're not going to change overnight, just accepting that, moving forward with intention and purpose is really, there's no exact science, but that's as close to a recipe as I can get.
I mean, it's so true. All of that kind of resonated. And I think, Jessica, one thing too that kind of came up for me while you were saying that is you can change like right now. Like we're anybody that's listening here with us, that's right here with us, realize that this can be a starting point, a pivot point, because I think sometimes we think I'm a perfectionist. Jessica probably is if she's a lawyer. Like I'm sure that you have that in your personality, almost have to be because part of like studying and doing. But I think sometimes we think that we kind of get in a low spot and we feel stuck, and I think realizing that any point can be a pivot point. For example, like yesterday I went to a work party and it was our ProCare health party. It was so fun and ate a lot more than I needed to, and I got home and I was like, oh, I'm so tired, and I just felt so full. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So I mean, instead of having to like eat a bunch of junk, on top of whatever I already ate because of feeling guilty. I thought, this is going to be a pivot point. I'm just going to rest, drink some water, like give myself a little break. So you can pivot at any point. You could pivot like during your midday and think, you know what? I feel like I need a little activity. Didn't feel like exercising this morning, but maybe I'll go out and take a 10-minute walk. You may not have enough time for an hour. You may not have enough time for 2 hours or whatever, expectation you thought you had, but 5 minutes even just walking 5 minutes, like anything to just kind of in the moment, kind of change your mood. And those little tiny empowering things that we do sometimes can make the difference of our overall day because you just kind of change the momentum just a little bit. It's almost like rolling a ball up a hill and you get to a certain point where all at once it becomes easier and easier as that ball starts rolling down. So like if you just start doing tiny little things, I call it the slide edge, tiny little things consistently, persistently, even whenever, like when you're noticing that you're feeling a certain way, doing something that makes you just feel a little better in the moment. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Like you don't have to have this perfect day of this perfect diet, I'm going to call it lifestyle. It can be like living in the moment and then thinking the next thing I'm going to do is something that makes me feel a little better, in activity. Maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's just laying, maybe it's taking a bath, and like soaking in bubbles for a little bit. Maybe it's going outside and just taking a couple really long, deep breaths and just kind of relaxing for like 5 minutes. Or if you're at work, I've even done that at work, like thinking I just need a tiny little minute. I'm going to go to the bathroom, stay in there for 5 or 10 minutes and just breathe and just relax. Like there's no phone calls. There's no one talking to me. I just need quiet for 5 minutes. And sometimes that will change the momentum of your whole day. Like, especially if I had a really hard phone call or something like that. Whenever I was working at the hospital, I did a lot of customer service, worked in quality management as a nurse. And I worked in the ER and I got a lot of phone calls in that. I worked ER as a nurse and then I did quality management for a while. And I did a lot of the customer service. And sometimes those calls weren't always that fun. And so I'd find myself like, okay, I got to pivot. I got to move past this. I got to find something to feel better. And just taking like a 5 or 10 minute break, walking away from it, taking some breaths, and then just kind of collecting myself. Anybody else feel that way ever? Like you feel like all at once, like you're having a day and you just need to recombine and recollect.
No, you're exactly right. Because that in itself is breaking a cycle, right? How many of us have been like, I'll get to it tomorrow, or I'll start this new lifestyle on Monday, when really you could do a little thing today, right? Drinking a water instead of a soda when you're out with friends kind of situation. If you normally take vitamins in the morning when you brush your teeth type situation, but you forget and you remember at 5 p.m., you can just take them at 5 p.m. There's no bad thing associated with that, right? In your journey and recognizing that things are cyclical and they come in phases and changes and all of that, you're not going to wake up and be a different person tomorrow. It's like if there's like a big block, right? Actually, no, this is a very real thing. So I moved into my house in 2020 and it was my first house, super stoked about it. And I'm a nester. I wanted to make it my own. And so the way perfectionist me, I was like, I'm going to go hard one day and I'm going to paint everything because I have the paint out and I'll have the tools out and I can just clear my calendar and do it. Well, that's not being very kind to me because I need to eat and I need to rest and I need time away from staring at a freaking wall as I'm painting it, right? And so I had like 4 rooms done ish, and like bathrooms, hallways, that kind of thing. And the 2 main rooms that I occupied most of my time in were not. I picked the wrong shade. It was when gray was a really big thing, and my gray ended up being lavender. And I learned, but I hated every day that I woke up and I was like, I'm going to paint it this weekend. But I was so exhausted by the weekend time that I wouldn't want to do it. Anyways, finally one day, I was like, I'm going to do this today. And I'm only going to I wanted to install curtains. And I was like, I'm only going to do this piece where the curtains are at. And so I did that. And that momentum carried me. And I was like, okay, this is now more of a manageable thing. So the next time, I didn't even put a time on it. The next time that this particular wind strikes me, I'm going to do it. And let me tell you guys, I did it this weekend. Like finally cleaned, painted the walls, and it feels fantastic. But sometimes you can't do all of it at once. No painting is done in a day. Like you look outside, no building was constructed in a day, unless it's those 3D homes that they like print out, which is really cool. But other than that, like accepting that your body, your mind, your energy, you're not going to do any great big changes. It's just little nicks over time. It's how you said you pivoted, you got home, you're feeling full, and you're like, I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to rest. It's recognizing, I'm in a funk today. I don't really feel great. I'm going to take those deep breaths and reorient, especially too when your emotions are really high, right? Like this happened last night. So my partner and I were starting to decorate for Christmas, put on the Christmas music. But we were both tired and a little crabby and kind of snappy at one another. And I was like, hey, pause. I don't like this. Do you like this? He was like, no, because it was that silent tension, And I was like, I don't want our Christmas memories and listening to joyful music be something that I'm resenting. So I don't know about you, but why don't we just put a pause? We just put a pause to this and like let's go take a shower. I'm gonna do these dishes and these other things that are kind of pissing me off, and we'll just regroup. And so we did, and we changed the trajectory of the evening. And we had company. And the worst thing is when you're in a fight with your partner and company is there because you feel like you're being really fake, But it's recognizing we are complex creatures. We are capable of change. We can reorient and repivot at any damn time. You don't have to start tomorrow. You can start right now. If there's one thing you're putting off right now, do it. Like mail accumulates because you're like, it's junk mail. I don't want to go through it. Start with one. Start with the one piece of mail. Ride the momentum on the second. If you've had it with the second, stop with the second. That's cool. Tell yourself, I need some sunshine today. I've been in darkness all day. All right, stand outside. If your standing outside turns into a walk, awesome. If it doesn't, great. Code red, I love that. Yes. But that's how you start these little changes. Then you're the lady, you're that person, you're the man that goes for a walk when they're upset. You're that person that walks during their lunch. You're that person that is always calm, cool, and collected because no one sees you freak out because you're going into the restroom to breathe through it when you bicker. Yep, I love that. I'm going to make up a code word too. It was more of just like, I don't like this. Let's reorient, But doing all those little changes, you suddenly become that person. And it feels sudden, but it's not. You wake up a year later. This, like my morning routine, guys, like I wake up, I don't look at my phone. I go downstairs, I let my dog out, take care of my dog situation, drink water, drink the damn vitamin as I'm with the water, right? And then I take my dog for a 15-minute walk. I come back, and that's when I'll look at my phone. That's when I can invite the outside world in and drink coffee. And being like, I have PTSD and I have ADHD, and routines are something that's really like encouraged. But I'm also a Sagittarius and really freaking hard-headed, and I hate routines. I feel like they like bog me down. I didn't build this routine overnight. I started with the one thing. My dog needs to pee. Let me take it out, right? Like then I was like, this is a good time. I should drink water before I drink caffeine because I know me and I'm going to start with like uncomfortable sweats and heart palpitations, right? And even then, like my coffee is now at half caff. I don't drink full caffeination because I have anxiety and it's triggering. Anyways,
Mhm.
you can change. Every single person here can change into who they want to be, but doing it, how you do it, is the most difficult part. And if you build on a sturdy foundation, you'll be that person and you'll be compassionate and graceful and all the great things. And if you're building it on a shitty foundation, then it just takes one bad day, which full circle into a plug about like who I am and what I do and the life coaching bit. I'm going to put my website in the chat. I do free discovery calls. Feel free to, if any of this has resonated and you love to work with me, I'd love to work with you. But really, I help people take these shaky habits and turn them into sustainable life practices. So that way we are on a sturdy foundation. One bad day will not shake up everything you have built, and you can all be who you want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jessica, I'm going to have you put that because, so tell me, like, tell everybody how they can reach you, basically. So you got your website. I'm going to copy that onto Facebook too, so that people that are on Facebook will see that. And,
so you can reach me through my website. You can reach me through, I would love to, Tabla would love to. You can reach me through my website. I do free discovery calls there. My Instagram handle is Your Millennial Crisis Coach, because all of this is under crisis, and I thought it was a funny name. But every way is accessible to me. I haven't been updating my Instagram, full disclosure, because life happened. It got in the way, and it's okay. And I'm working myself back to it, right? Because we can all do that and practice that compassion. But there's all my details are here, and thank you so much, Brenda, both for having me here and for putting the stuff on Facebook.
oh, sure, absolutely. I'm looking to find your Instagram page just to see, would it be better for them to go through your um, home, your website, or can they go through Instagram if they're an Instagram person?
You can do both, yeah.
Okay. I'm looking to see here. I'm looking for that to be able to point them in the direction what your name is on Instagram. It's Jessica
Yes,
Dora.
it is. I'm putting the full link
Okay.
in the chat.
Perfect. Um, perfect. And I'll copy that over to Facebook too. Jessica, give us something as a closing point that you'd like to share.
Closing point that I'd like to share. Just gratitude. Thank you to everyone that has spent the last hour with me and hearing me out. I mean, honestly, every single person here is the real MVP. Like, I'm not here to hear me talk. I'm here for all of you because all of you have taken the steps to be a better version of yourselves. And so each one of you are people to be admired and respected and supported. And I just want you all to know that I may not know you personally, but I see your effort. I see you showing up, and I'm so very proud of every single person here.
I always think it's by no chance that people show up on specific calls. And if you're here with us now, likely there was something that will inspire you to take a next step or to maybe help you in some way. So, Jessica, thank you so much for being that today. And it looks like there's several of them that are saying thank you, very helpful. And on Facebook too, as well. We have Chen saying thank you on Facebook. So we truly appreciate it. And I'm going to kind of give a shout out to, you were talking about vitamins and our sponsors, ProCare. So we've been kind of doing these little shout outs at the end of our programs. And I'm going to share a product that probably a lot of you have not even heard of before. I'm going to share my screen for just a tiny little second and pop on. So there's a product that ProCare carries. It's called CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, and asking, can it help aid in weight loss? And the answer to that is, it's a supplement that can help with deficiencies. It helps with weight gain and improves metabolic syndrome. It's an antioxidant that helps slow progression of age-related disease like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. So you can use it alongside your regular bariatric vitamins. I'll put a little link if anybody is interested. Actually, let me kind of go back and I'll share. I had it pulled up here, a ProCare. If you type in www.procarenow.com and you go to the products, it's under this and under this tab that says vitamin mineral supplementation. And it is actually on page 2. So once you get to that page, you go next and it's right here. So there's a 90 count in a bottle, single bottle, and supplemental facts, this description. Let's see. I was looking for the back label. Believe it's once daily is what's recommended. It has the ingredients and all of that on there. And you can buy a 90 count bottle, which will last you 3 months. You can do a one-time purchase, or you can do delivery every month, or you can change this to every 3 months, since that's what would be, it's a 30-day supply. So if you guys haven't tried ProCare, there's a little place for a free sample, and you can put in your information and have that mailed out to you. So I'm going to kind of stop at that. I'm going to share.
Brenda, you have a question in the chat from Enid that what is it used for?
It is basically, it's basically like an antioxidant to help with metabolism and to help the body with slow progression of like age-related things like blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes. It helps inhibit weight gain and is supposed to help improve metabolic syndrome. I had to actually do some research on it myself because this is one of the products that I'm actually getting ready to try. I haven't tried it yet. We've been carrying it now for just a little while, and we haven't had much talk about it. So I'm going to actually put the website here. People can check that out and do a little research yourself before you take any supplement. Always good to check things out. She says, I know I ask you everything. Enid's wonderful. I love Enid. She does. She's always checking things out. I mean, you don't want to take something unless you know it can help you. Do some research yourselves, like check into that type of supplement. It's just type in the word, the CoQ10, coenzyme Q10, and see what kind of information else you can find out there about it. So that's all I have. And I want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to be signing off here. And Jessica, you can stay on the call. When we end recording, me and you'll still be on screen. But I want to thank everybody who joined us. We hope this was beneficial to you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. It's a pivot moment. Stop, take a deep breath, relax, reset your body, reset it, and move forward in the direction that you want of whatever dream it is that you have. So I'm going to be stopping here. So thank you, everybody.